All right. So Brandon Aiyuk goes to the Steelers. What's the fallout of that look like, right? I think that's one of the more important things that people are wanting to know is like, what happens when Brandon Aiyuk goes to the Steelers? Does his value change? Do you still draft George Pickens, etc.? When it comes to Brandon Aiyuk, I still think he's a high-end wide receiver too. He's an elite receiver in the game, so it's all about the number of targets with him. He's efficient, and as long as he's getting looks, like remember with Deontay Johnson, they were force-feeding Deontay Johnson, and I think a lot of the same can be expected for Brandon Aiyuk downfield, intermediate routes, close to the line of scrimmage. He just wins too much to not be targeted. So I think Aiyuk is still going to be a high-end wide receiver too, with possibly some top 12 upside, but I'd more so put him as like a top 15 guy. As far as Deebo Samuel's value, that's probably the next player I get the most questions about. So Deebo Samuel, obviously, if the Niners don't get a receiver back, they'll be rocking with Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall as the 2 and the 3. So Deebo Samuel, to me, will have a little bit more of an increased role. We can expect him to be a top 10 type receiver with upside to be a top 5 guy when it's all said and done. So Deebo Samuel is going to be a player that moves up my rankings considerably if Aiyuk is traded and they don't acquire a receiver back. As far as George Kittle goes, I also think he will take an elevated role in this offense. I would expect him to be more in the top 5-ish type range. I probably would move him up over Mark Andrews, and he would be a little bit more consistent rock for this team offensively, in my opinion. So Kittle would move up in my rankings as well. He's a player that probably would be in the top 4 or 5 tight ends. Probably number 4, right after Kelsey, McBride, and Laporta. And then when it comes to Juwan Jennings, a lot of people are underestimating his impact last year during the postseason and how the team found kind of a third down guy in Juwan Jennings. And I think he takes on a bigger role this year as well. So typically in this Niner offense, we don't see rookies come out the gate and just perform at an extreme level in the offense. We did have, obviously, Brock Purdy, who played well, but it was like, we kind of didn't know that was going to happen. And he had to take that job away from Trey Lance. So typically in the Niners offense, we see rookies do not have an immediate impact. So that's my gut with Ricky Pearsall, is that it's going to take him a while. And I think most people are going to say he's going to be the beneficiary. I think Juwan Jennings will enter flex territory in this offense, in your 12-team leagues, in your deeper leagues. He'll be flexible during bye weeks. But that's what I have for Juwan Jennings. As far as the Steelers side goes, obviously with Aiyuk on the Steelers, that's going to affect the player that we're taking the most, George Pickens. And right now we're taking him. He was already being drafted as like a wide receiver 3 for the most part, outside of the top 30 receivers. Recently, his ADP had started to creep up towards the top 25 range. I still think he's in that top 25 to 30 range. He should be a 1,000-yard receiver. He was 1,100-yard guy last year with Deontay Johnson. He's been, he's been that guy. The inconsistency has been his main thing. I think he's going to be an inconsistent wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for our fantasy teams. As far as Pat Freiermuth goes, there was a lot of optimism he could be the number 2 guy there. I would sense that would dial back. And so Pat Freiermuth probably wouldn't be on the breakout tight end list. I would put him behind like a Luke Musgrave when this comes to fruition. And then as far as the quarterbacks for both teams, Brock Purdy is another player that I probably need to speak a little bit more about, because I do think he would suffer with this type of move. The offense, Brandon Aiyuk's an elite receiver. As much as people don't say the name Brandon Aiyuk with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and all the exciting players, but Brandon Aiyuk's an elite receiver in football. So I think losing a player like that without gaining another player will hurt Purdy's value. I have him as a high-end QB2, and obviously he has weekly upside, but he'd be a high-end QB2, doesn't run, and I feel like the offense would go through the run game, probably slow down a little bit more. As far as the Steeler quarterbacks, right now Russell Wilson's going as a high-end QB3. Justin Fields is not drafted in the most part. Russell Wilson, if he's named the starter, to me has high-end QB2 upside with both of these receivers. I think he'd be phenomenal in this offense with Arthur Smith calling the plays. Just with this entire offense, the Steeler offense would be good. Obviously, he could throw the ball downfield, would be able to hit Aiyuk and be able to hit George Pickens at will. They're already moving around George Pickens around the formation, so I'm not overly concerned with either of their roles. But Russell Wilson to me would be like around that around that Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins range, probably closer to like a Tua Tagovailoa, because he has rushing upside as well. If somehow Justin Fields was named the starter, I would make him an instant QB1. Justin Fields would be like a top 7 quarterback to me if he was named the starter week 1 for the Steelers with these receivers. So to me, if Justin Fields is named the starter, I think we will have a major, major breakout season and like fantasy season from Justin Fields. He would be like a top 6 pick in my opinion, right behind like Anthony Richardson, and he probably would outplay that at times too. So that's my fallout from this Steeler trade. If it happens, if Aiyuk does get traded, I think the biggest beneficiaries obviously would be like Debo and Kittle on the Niners side. I think when it comes to the Steelers, the quarterbacks would see a lot of value either way, and you'll probably be able to get both at a discount for a while. So, what do y'all think? Y'all think I'm on to something? You think I'm tripping? Think I'm tripping? Brandon Aiyuk to the Eagles? Hell nah. Brandon Aiyuk about to trade Aiyuk for me, and I'm gonna be the wide receiver one. I hope it ends soon, but it doesn't sound like it's going to. Yeah, I wish it would end, but I don't think it's going to, man. If something happens to Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins, you have more confidence in Spencer Rattler or Michael Penix? Penix all day. Michael Penix with that setup be nasty. Rattler should be good though. I think it'll take him longer than it will take Penix. Philly still has been linked to Justin Simmons. What do you think changes if he signs there? That defense is going to be great. That defense is already deep, but if they can get Justin Simmons to a safety, that would be. I think the Eagles would be a problem. Be a problem. You got to come to Cincy and run with Jamar and T for one season. Nah, ain't no way. There's only 2 things right now that Aiyuk cares about, and that's money and targets. Is he going to get paid, and is he going to be the one? I think he wants to be the number 1 receiver. You kind of view Aiyuk a talented player in a talented offense on the Niners. What do you mean? Do you mean that in a good way, or do you mean that as like he's only good because he's on the Niners? And Aiyuk is a talented receiver no matter what team he's on. It's not just because he plays for the Niners, and I think he'll prove that this year. You know, Aiyuk hasn't even had like over 120 targets yet. What happens when we see that out of him? And he had 1,300 yards last year on 105 targets. Imagine if he had 105 catches. So there, to me, there's a lot of upside for Brandon Aiyuk just given the situation. I'd want to see him with a good quarterback and an offense that can move the ball and push it like 4,500 yards to 4,000 yards, somewhere in that range. That's what I want to see. I don't think he was just a talented player on the Niners. I think he's just a talented receiver. You think Aiyuk gets traded? I think there's no way he stays with the Niners this season. I don't think there's any way. I think they came to terms with the Pats and the Browns. They've already talked with the Steelers. There's too much smoke as far as like the trade conversation for him to stay and everything be candy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't see that. I don't see that at all. I don't see that at all. Still a chance to go to the Patriots. I guess the Patriots already backed out. Patriots said they have no more interest, but teams come and go. I got Garrett Wilson, Bijan, Kyron Pickens, neighbors of my flex. That's solid. I think it's a solid team. I don't know what the rest of the team looks like, but that looks solid, like a solid start. Simmons needs to sign already. I think that's a game changer on defense. Yes, if they get him, their defense is already going to be a problem, but it would be even more of a problem. Fix that secondary that was kind of leaky last year. What if he forces his way to Washington? I've heard Washington's name come up. They're out of it. Washington's already out of it, unfortunately, but supposedly they didn't give the Niners enough. I know he wanted to go there, but what if Aiyuk goes to the Chargers? That would be a sneaky team. Yeah, I just don't see that happening. When you got a first-round receiver in Quentin Johnston, you got a second-round receiver in Lad McConkey, you have 2 veteran receivers. One of them you just signed DJ Chark. The other one you got in Quentin Johnston. And I'm not saying that's elite, but I think if you're Jim Harbaugh, you want to see what you have first out of the players that you have before you go commit to a guy like Aiyuk. So, because that's big money. You got to commit $30 million to him annually. Is it worth drafting Fields? Think he can start in Pitt over Russ? I don't think that he starts over Russ, but if Justin Fields sees the field at any point in time this year, it's going to be like a cheat code. So I think in a super flex league and a 12-team super flex league, if I was drafting now, I would be okay with drafting him to the end of your bench just in preparation that he's the week 1 starter. I think in single QB leagues, you can wait. Single QB leagues, you can wait. I think in super flex leagues, though, you could bench him. Deep super flex leagues. What's his asking price? Brandon Aiyuk's asking price right now is 30 mil. 30 mil a year. The Niners offer him 26. He wants 30 mil a year. I think Pittsburgh's going to give it to him. I think whoever trades for him is going to give it to him. Guys, make sure y'all like the stream, man. Somebody told me one day, he's like, you gotta tell us to like the stream. So I'm telling y'all to like the stream right now, all right? Telling y'all to like the stream. How do you feel about Achane, Hill, AJ Brown, Saquon on one team for fantasy? I feel like that's good. That's a good squad. You got some good floor, good upside. You're talking about the teams. I don't mind having teams from good offenses. You got Dolphins and Eagles. I don't mind that. The Niners want him to take $26 million and probably want to give him a 2-year deal instead of a longer 5-year deal. The reason why I say that is because Brock Purdy has to get his contract next year. That's their main focus, is re-signing, having enough money to sign Brock Purdy. Because guess what? It's going to take $70 million to get Brock Purdy next year. I think his contract's up after the 2026 season. So it's going to take $70 million to get Brock Purdy. That's the issue. Quinn Johnson, legit bricks for hands. Pats gave him the money he wanted. He declined. Yes, but it wasn't the fit. I think he wants to play for a contender too. He wants his cake and to eat it too, which I can't blame him if he's got leverage. And it seems like he kind of does. Aiyuk should go to the Cowboys so he can experience more failure for the rest of his life. Damn. That's crazy. 30 mil a good price. San Fran crazy for not doing that. You know what? A lot of people are like, oh, Brandon Aiyuk's not a top 10 receiver. Their gripe is that he's not a top 10 receiver. Why should he be paid like one? But we know at the end of that 5-year period, he's going to be a cut candidate. So they're probably going to have some kind of clause in there where they can cut him in the 4th or 5th year, however long the deal is, 3rd year, 4th year, 5th year. But then also, we know that the wide receiver scale goes up. Like the highest paid receiver a while ago was $25 million, $28 million. Now that's a mid-tier wide receiver. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know why the Niners haven't just got it done. I mean, it's a lot of money, but you can work that out. Would you avoid Texans receivers at their ADP? I love Diggs at his ADP. The other two, I don't. I don't like Nico Collins at top 15 receiver ADP, and I don't like Tank Dell at top 25 receiver ADP. I love Diggs at top 20 receiver ADP. Lamar, Bijan, Kyren at my 2 flex spots. Good job. This team looks solid. Team looks solid. What do the Niners want in a trade? Is this your real team or is this a team you mocked? Is this your real team or a team you mocked? What do the Niners want in a trade? So I know right now it's draft picks, probably 1st rounder or 2nd round draft pick next year. And then like from the Browns, they want Amari Cooper, reportedly. From the Patriots, they've been looking for Kendrick Bourne, I'm assuming a pick. So yeah. Favorite late round pick? Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman is probably my favorite late round pick. I like getting Rashad Bateman. It'll be a nightmare if you go to someone in the same division, Ant. I don't know what you're talking about. Bijan going to outscore everyone in this position. Yes, I think Bijan's the number 1 player. And I keep saying that. And initially I caught flack for it. But it's funny because I see a lot of fantasy analysts coming around to that now. And there wasn't a whole lot of people saying Bijan number 1. Bijan wasn't even a lot of people's top 5 when I moved him to my number 1. So yeah, this team, you said this is your real team. I think it's a good team. Only thing is maybe you need another receiver. Like you got Wilson, Pickens, Neighbors, Garrett Wilson, Pickens, and Neighbors. So, but I mean, your running back core is solid. So if you only start 2 receivers, you got Neighbors and Mixon as your flex. I think that's solid. You got running back early. I would just say your receivers, you need Pickens and Neighbors to hit. Lost total respect for Aiyuk. He wants both the bag and to play for a contender. You usually can't have both. He's a whiny, spoiled little brat. Why would you say that? Why would you say that, Derek? To me, that doesn't make sense. Like, why would you say, like, Why would you be mad at somebody for asking to play for a contender and to get paid? If he gets it, he gets it. But why would you be mad at him for asking that? Don't you want to work for a good company and also get paid? Like, don't you want that too? Don't you want to get paid top tier money and be valued and play for a contender? And if you have a little bit of leverage, because what happens with these NFL teams? When they can trade you to whoever they want, they send you to the worst case scenario. They don't treat you right. When they can pay you and give you a contract, what do? They franchise tag you and make you play on a 1-year deal. What happens when you don't perform at your highest level for the remainder of your contract? They cut you and leave you high and dry. What happens if you're a young player and you're trying to make a team? They don't just give you a guaranteed contract because they like you. They cut you and leave you out there to dry. So why would you lose respect for a guy that's demanding respect for himself, his play on the field, what he's been doing, and his value? I don't agree with that at all. And to call him a whiny, spoiled little brat, that's low key out of pocket, to be real. That doesn't. Why is he a little spoiled brat? That doesn't make sense. Get paid. Why are you hating on somebody else getting paid? Angel, what's good, bro? Brazil, what's good? Yeah, I think I don't like that take personally, but you got your own opinion. Niners are better with him, and he's at his best with the Niners, so he should just shut up and play, and Niners should pay him. The Niners should pay him, but if you're unhappy about something, closed mouths don't get fed. And if you were talking all that, it seems like they've already been talking this offseason, and it didn't go down. Sounds like there's a reason for that. So thankful how we got all our guys signed early. Now the market's exploded. Every deal looks like a steal. That's how we were. The Niners were like that. And then all of a sudden we became the ones that are getting ransacked every single summer